In this video, we explore the challenges and restrictions faced by Black Americans during the Reconstruction era. From discriminatory laws to violent acts of racism, the obstacles encountered by Black individuals shaped their daily lives and opportunities. Explore the struggles and resilience of the Black community during this tumultuous period in American history. Greetings and welcome. I'm Carolyn A. from GettingToTheRoots.com, ready to empower you with tips, resources, and tutorials to craft a legacy that's uniquely yours. Let's discover the unique role your family has played in history. Join us on this incredible journey. Together, let's uncover the stories that have shaped us, celebrate the diversity of our heritage, and ensure that the legacies of our ancestors are remembered and cherished forever. Let's dive in. What led to the Reconstruction era? The end of the Civil War in 1865 left the southern states in ruins, both physically and economically. Cities lay in rubble, plantations were destroyed, and the social order that had sustained the South for centuries, based on slave labor, was upended. The urgent question of how to rebuild the South and integrate millions of freed, enslaved into the social, political, and economic fabric of the country became paramount. What was Lincoln's plan for rebuilding the nation? Abraham Lincoln envisioned a lenient Reconstruction process that would quickly reintegrate the southern states back into the Union and heal the nation's wounds. His plan, known as the 10% Plan, proposed that a southern state could be readmitted into the Union once 10% of its voters, from the voter rolls for the election of 1860, swore an oath of allegiance to the Union and accepted the emancipation of slaves. However, Lincoln's assassination in April 1865 dramatically altered the course of Reconstruction. If you find value in this video, please show your support by liking it, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. This aids in improving our visibility through YouTube's algorithm. Now, let's get back to our video. How did Lincoln's assassination change Reconstruction plans? Following Lincoln's assassination, Vice President Andrew Johnson ascended to the presidency. Johnson, a Southern Democrat who remained loyal to the Union, initially seemed to support harsh penalties for the Southern states. He soon advocated for a more lenient approach, similar to Lincoln's, but with even less protection for the newly freed enslaved. His policies were met with fierce opposition from the radical Republicans, a faction within the Republican Party that sought to enforce strict measures to transform Southern society, ensure civil rights for freed slaves, and redistribute land. This pivot in policy direction drew fierce opposition from the radical Republicans, a faction within the Republican Party. These radicals advocated for stringent measures to fundamentally transform Southern society, guarantee civil rights for freed slaves, and pursue land redistribution. Their label, radical, stemmed from their commitment to redefining American democracy and society, aiming for a nation where all men, regardless of race, enjoyed equal rights and opportunities. This vision, radically different from Johnson's more conciliatory stance, highlighted the deep ideological divide over how to rebuild and reunite the nation in the aftermath of the Civil War. What was the conflict between radical Republicans and President Johnson? The division between radical Republicans and President Johnson centered on the rights of the freed slaves and the future of the Southern states. Radical Republicans pushed for the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the Reconstruction Acts of 1867, which aimed to dismantle the former Confederacy's social structure, enfranchise African Americans, and ensure their rights were protected by federal law. Johnson's veto of these acts, and his overall resistance to radical Republican policies, led to a political standoff that culminated in his impeachment in 1868. This conflict underscored the deep divisions within the American government and society about the direction of Reconstruction. The role of the federal government in enforcing civil rights and the balance of power between the states and the federal government. The clash between Johnson and the radical Republicans highlights the era's central dilemma. How to reconcile the promises of freedom and citizenship for African Americans with the deeply entrenched racial prejudices and economic interests of the time. This struggle set the stage for the ongoing battle over civil rights, equality, and the meaning of democracy in America. What were the aims of the Freedmen's Bureau? In March 1865, before the Civil War had officially ended, Congress established the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, commonly known as the Freedmen's Bureau. This agency was designed to assist freed slaves and poor whites in the South by providing food, housing, medical aid, and education. The Freedmen's Bureau also played a crucial role in legal affairs, helping to negotiate labor contracts and attempting to secure land for former slaves. It represented a significant federal intervention aimed at addressing the immediate needs of the newly emancipated population and aiding their transition from slavery to freedom. Explore the Freedmen's Bureau's impact on the freed, enslaved, and post-Civil War America in our video. Learn about its role in legal aid, education, and more. A crucial piece of history that shapes our present. Check the show notes for the link. How did the Civil Rights Acts and constitutional amendments seek to transform American society? The legislative backbone of Reconstruction comprised the Civil Rights Acts and the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. The Civil Rights Act of 1866, passed over President Johnson's veto, aimed to protect the rights of all citizens and marked the first attempt to define citizenship in a way that included African Americans. The 13th Amendment of 1865 abolished slavery throughout the United States, formally freeing approximately 4 million enslaved people. The 14th Amendment of 1868 granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, including former enslaved, and promised equal protection of the laws to all citizens. The 15th Amendment of 1870 aimed to protect the voting rights of African American men by prohibiting states from denying the right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. These amendments sought not only to end slavery, but to establish the legal foundation for equal rights for African Americans, fundamentally transforming American society and governance. Why did Southern states resist Reconstruction efforts, and what were the Black Codes? During the Reconstruction era, despite federal efforts to protect the freed enslaved rights, Southern states resisted with Black Codes that limited African Americans' freedoms to maintain a slavery-like order. This resistance revealed the South's refusal to accept the Civil War's end and deep-rooted racial prejudices. The federal government responded with the Reconstruction Acts, placing Southern states under military oversight to enforce laws and protect African American rights. Despite efforts like the Freedmen's Bureau and civil rights laws aiming to rebuild the U.S. on equality, the ongoing opposition signaled the long battle for racial equality ahead. Explore the impact of Black Codes in our video Labor Trap, how Black Code laws enforced new forms of slavery. Learn about their role in American history and the fight for equality. Click the link in the show notes for more. How did the transition from slavery to sharecropping and tenant farming affect the freed people? The abolition of slavery under the 13th Amendment fundamentally changed the agricultural economy of the South. Without the institution of slavery, Southern landowners and the former enslaved faced the challenge of reorganizing agricultural production. Sharecropping and tenant farming emerged as prevalent systems, wherein freed people and poor whites would work a piece of land in return for a share of the crop. This arrangement, while offering freedmen a degree of autonomy, often resulted in economic exploitation and indebtedness, as the sharecroppers could rarely earn enough to get ahead financially. This cycle of debt effectively tied them to the land and the landowner, mirroring aspects of the slavery system it replaced. What role did the establishment of public school systems play in the South? One of the most significant achievements of the Reconstruction era was the establishment of public school systems in the South for both Black and white children. Prior to the Civil War, educational opportunities for the vast majority of Southerners, especially African Americans, were extremely limited. Reconstruction governments initiated the creation of public schools, marking a monumental step toward universal education and literacy. These schools not only provided basic education, but also became centers for community development and social change, laying the foundation for future educational reforms. How did economic challenges and Northern influence shape the post-war Southern economy? The post-war Southern economy faced numerous challenges, including the devastation of war, the loss of slave labor, and the need to rebuild. Northern investors and businessmen, often referred to pejoratively as carpetbaggers, by Southerners, played a significant role in shaping the region's economic recovery. They brought capital and entrepreneurial skills to the South, investing in infrastructure, industry, and agriculture. However, this Northern influence was met with suspicion and hostility by many Southerners who saw it as an imposition and an exploitation of the South's economic vulnerabilities. Moreover, the Southern economy struggled to diversify. The reliance on cotton and other cash crops persisted, leaving the region vulnerable to fluctuations in global commodity prices. Political instability and resistance to change made the economic difficulties of Reconstruction even more difficult, which hampered the South's economic growth and integration into the national economy. How did the rise of African American politicians impact the South? The Reconstruction era saw an unprecedented increase in African American participation in political life. For the first time in American history, Black men were elected to local, state, and federal offices, including Congress. The 15th Amendment, which forbade denying a citizen the right to vote based on race, color, or previous servitude, contributed to this increase in political activity. African American politicians worked to enact progressive reforms, including the establishment of public school systems, improvements in infrastructure, and the promotion of social justice initiatives. Their participation symbolized a dramatic shift in the political landscape of the South and the beginning of a long struggle for racial equality in American politics. What was the backlash from Southern whites and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan? The Reconstruction era's advances for African Americans faced backlash from Southern whites, leading to the Klan's rise. They employed terror tactics to sabotage Reconstruction efforts and re-establish white dominance. Explore the Klan's impact on African American rights in our video, The Impact of the Ku Klux Klan on African American Rights. What is the legacy of the Reconstruction era? The Reconstruction era established significant gains for African Americans, including citizenship, equal protection under the law, and the right to vote. However, the eventual dismantling of these gains during the transition to the Jim Crow era underscored the fragility of progress in the face of entrenched racial prejudices. Jim Crow laws institutionalized racial segregation and disenfranchisement across the South, undoing the advancements of Reconstruction and creating barriers that would take nearly a century to dismantle. Discover the lasting effects of Jim Crow laws in our video, The Hidden Side of Jim Crow Laws. See how these laws reversed Reconstruction's progress and enforced segregation for decades. Find the link in the show notes to learn more. Despite these setbacks, the Reconstruction era left an indelible mark on the American consciousness. It set precedents for the federal government's role in protecting civil rights and laid the groundwork for future civil rights movements. The struggles and achievements of this period served as a beacon for later generations, inspiring the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s. The Reconstruction era demonstrated both the potential for transformative progress and the constant vigilance required to maintain and advance civil rights in America. Well, that's a wrap on Black life under Reconstruction restriction. If you found this journey through history enlightening, don't forget to like, share, and comment on what video you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep seeking knowledge. Peace and love.